Hello and welcome to Eastern Horizon. This is Malika Yubsumbul, and today we are covering the massive protest that has been erupted in Albania. Many cities witnessed the severe protest, but Tirana, that is the capital, that is facing the hundreds and thousands of the people who are protesting against Donald Trump's sons-in-law, Jared Kushner, luxury resort project that worth billions of US dollars, and it is going to be on a protected land of 1400 hectares at Sanaz Island. That is a place and a wetland of more than 70 endangered species and migratory birds. So, thousands of the protesters are demanding resignation from the Prime Minister Adi Rama. To discuss this, I have joined by two very distinguished experts from Tirana. I have joined Marsela Musabelliu. She is the executive director of the Albania Institute of Globalization Studies. And from UK, I have joined Rupert. He is a famous environmentalist. He is author of several books on climate and environment. He is also co-director of Climate Majority Project. So thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So let me go to Marsila. So how you see what's going on in Tirana? Why people are protesting?
Well, for that we will need to have a couple of hours, but I will go directly to the source. We are in day 23 of protesting. All of us, we are trying every day to be at the main square. And as you said into the intro, yes, it is about a Kushner linked project, but it was just last the last drop that dropped the bucket actually. This is an avalanche of problems that started with this resource, that started with this environmental massacre that they are trying to do, which we believe they will not because everybody's on the streets now. And then the discontent of the people, the not being told the truth of Albanians, the lack of transparency that we see placed everybody into the streets. Initially, there were hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands.
So Rupert Reed, how you see mean that especially in climate and environment, when such kind of the amendments in laws to give favoritism to someone, I mean what the international law, especially the climate law, says about such kind of the favoritism?
Yeah, so I think a key reason why these protests are happening and are so huge is that there is a clear connection between the environmental damage that is threatened by this scheme, which comes, of course, from the Trump family in the United States, and the oligarchic dimensions of the rule of those who are currently ruling Albania and those who are currently ruling the United States. And this is a trend, unfortunately, that we've seen around the world. In other words, to put it in very simple terms, the rich and especially the super rich are trying to buy up the most beautiful places, are threatening to devastate them for their own interests. And what's happening in Albania is incredibly inspiring because people are saying no in very large numbers. And this is a protest which is having such success because they're saying no in a very sustained way. It reminds me, for example, of the Extinction Rebellion protests, which I helped to launch back in 2019 in the United Kingdom, where we had thousands of people who every day were on the streets, day after day, including camping on the streets. And when you do something for one day, then politicians can ignore it. But when you do it day after day, when you have a really sustained form of protest, it becomes far harder to ignore. And that is why I think that these protesters, these brave protesters in Albania, stand a real chance of potentially succeeding in what they are trying to do.
Hmm. So, Marcela, the law that is law number 21 2024. So, this law has been amended and it was for the protected area that I mean that is this island and all this area where they are going to build this luxury resort. So the constitutional court rejected the review with 4-4 tie in 2025. So the European Parliament asked to repeal this. So how do you think that the pressure on the Albanian government by the European Union?
Well, this law is special for many, many reasons. How we see it in Albania is corruption, greed, crossing borders and continents. Basically, we have special laws for the rich and the powerful, and we have a certain kind of law for the rest of us. The main shouting we have in the protest is Albania is not for sale. This is not a land that somebody can come, buy, and then have it. This is our land. Our forefathers have given their lives for it, and we want our children to live in it. And for that, it doesn't matter if someone is the son-in-law of the president or the daughter, for that matter, who actually discovered this island, right? It was not hers
Mm,
to discover. We had it from centuries. So this is what actually brought the people to the square, the indignations of the haves and the have-nots, the indignation of the ones who feel powerless in their own land, the indignation of those who see our law and our constitution perhaps being changed to fit the agenda and the pockets of people who are at the very best at the helm of the world power for another 1 year. It doesn't matter. How we see it in Albania is that, surprisingly enough, this law changed just 1 month after Trump was elected. So the timing here is very suspicious. So we are making
mm,
a special law for the President of the United States, but we cannot make a special law for our own citizens of people or people who own that land. First of all, there are two separate projects, the island and the Nata Viosa Lagoon, of which everybody is speaking about. The Southern Island is a state territory. It doesn't belong to any private person or entity. It is the only island we have, and it is a strategic geographical position. On the other hand, the Nata Viosa Lagoon is a private-owned land. However, it is a protected land. 21% of the land in Albania is protected, and by law, you can own it, but you cannot build in it. It makes sense. However, if your surname is Kushner, maybe you can build on it.
mm, mm. So Rupert Reader. So the Pishiporu Narta Reserve, actually home to one of the Europe last wild river. It encompasses much of the Zavarnik Peninsula and its sandy shores, protecting an island lagoon that is the majority migratory route for the hundreds of the birds and more than 70 endangered species. So, uh, such kind of the wet protected land mean that because even the protesters, they also called it a Flamingo revolution. So how you think that to mean that how could be a international mean that the outcry for such kind of this mean that the migratory birds that could be endangered by such projects?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because it's, I think, incredibly encouraging that we have here a potential revolution in progress, and it's being named after a wild bird, the flamingo, right? The flamingo revolution, they are calling it. That's very encouraging. It shows people being willing to act in a very serious and dignified and courageous way politically together in a cause which has a human dimension and a national dimension and a more than human dimension and an international dimension. So I think it's really important that the European Parliament seems to be on the side of the protesters. I think more broadly, whatever solidarity can be brought across the world. Albania is a small country, but here Albania is speaking to the whole world. And if we around the world are willing and able to say that we stand with those who are taking part in the Flamingo Revolution, it sends out a powerful message of human solidarity, but it also sends out a powerful message of more than human solidarity, to say that actually beautiful natural places, species, including very obviously migratory species which cross boundaries, are matters that all people can be concerned about, should be concerned about. And well, let's put it this way: if this flamingo revolution is able to win and achieve some of its aims, or maybe even its broader political aims, that too will send out a very powerful and welcome message around the world that the same kind of thing can and should happen in other places. People can and should stand up against corrupt politicians and for the animals that cannot speak up for or stand for themselves.
So, Marsela, my question to you, that you are attending the protest and it's third week that this protest is going on. So, how you see in things can move towards which side? Because that will the government, the prime minister is going to step down, or what would be the next? That are they going to repeal this law?
For us, everything started with the question of repealing this law. However, now our demands have multiplied because it's not about only that. We are seeing our rights violated every single day in healthcare, in education, in public services, and everything that is related to the state. So at the end of the day, yes, everything started with an environment movement, and we are very grateful for that. That finally it was the environment and those beautiful flamingos that woke up an entire country, because for decades now people were giving up. Albanians are fleeing the country by the tens of thousands every month. It's a country that has most of its population outside of its borders rather than inside of our borders. So this huge immigration of our young people and professionals and young families, it's a detriment to our country. And everything starts and ends with corruption. And everything, either we like it or not, is either aided and abetted by powerful foreigners, or is actually being managed by them. So we are very happy that our message has crossed continents. We are very happy that our struggle for dignity has reached so many countries, so many people, and even you guys. At the end of the day, this struggle is not just about a developing country that is trying to protect its nature. It's about, of course, political repercussions, because at the end of the day, it was a political decision that made this Flamingo revolution happen, because you cannot sell your protected land, you cannot sell your protected areas. We have to live here for many, many time later on. And one leader now cannot make the history for later. And at the end of the day, as I said before, it started environmentally, but now it's a full-blown political protest. Because at the end of the day, what people are asking on the streets, it's not for only the prime minister to resign. It's also for the leader of the opposition to resign. They are against the system. We are all against this so-called transitional period, which is about 36 years. So this system that was somehow imposed on us is not working. The government is not working, the opposition is not working. So at the end of the day, something dropped and an avalanche of problems just went on and surfaced. They did not surface, they were there. It's just that we never gathered in such a large number as these days to say them out loud. But and then the young people, basically the age of my students in their 20s, they are saying enough is enough.
So, Rupert Reader, my question to you is this: that how you think that the wetland and the coastal ecosystem in any area, and especially in this area, how much it is the climate resilient, and when such kind of the business conglomerates they enter into such kind of this protected areas, how much the damage, the regional damage and then the global damage to the climate, and especially the climate resilient, how you assess this?
Yeah, so I've never had the good fortune to visit Albania. I have encountered wild flamingos. When I first encountered them in the south of France, I remember it very vividly, a very, very beautiful and wonderful experience. Perhaps some of those are the same birds that fly across to and from Albania. But in terms of the substance of your question, it's very important to notice that the role that nature plays, a healthy, thriving nature, has a number of crucial dimensions for human beings as well as for that nature in itself. One of those dimensions, but only one, is the dimension of climate resilience. Wetlands are important in that they enable us to adapt to the kind of climate challenges that we are having without having to, at the same time, increase those damages. What I mean by that is that, for example, if you are thinking about the dangers of flooding in the future, which are going to be higher, and if you're thinking about what happens as sea level, unfortunately, rises, wetlands are one of our protections against those rising sea levels, and they can also sometimes be a protection against flood intrusion more generally. And in the process, they are not damaging and piling up carbon emissions in the way that if you do artificial engineering projects, you do often usually pile up those damaging carbon emissions. So I think the key point here is to say that nature is an absolutely fundamental asset for human beings, as well as obviously being something which is beautiful and precious that many of us sense in itself. And I think, as Marsela has been saying, that it was that beauty and preciousness, and this being a feature of the national heritage of Albania, that first motivated protesters. And now, given that the government in Albania seems to be not rising up to that challenge and not protecting that nature, the scope and the thrust of the protests has grown more wide. And I, for one, am very glad that this is reaching the world stage, and I'm very delighted to be speaking with you all here about it today. This is an important issue for Albania. This is an important issue for those flamingos and for many other species, and this is increasingly becoming a kind of symbolic issue around the world.
So my follow-up question to you is that how European Climate and the Environmental Agency, they could react towards Albania, because Albania, I think that desiring for the European Union membership, and I think they are quite eager. So how do you think that European Union can move towards Albania on this?
Yes.
How
so my understanding is that Europe has now been motivated, the EU, to say that this dodgy law that has been brought in seemingly for the benefit of a minuscule minority of well-connected, super-rich people, that this dodgy law should not be able to go ahead. And I think that this is good in that it sends a clear signal to a country like Albania, but also to many other countries, that you will not be permitted to go ahead and make these kinds of appalling changes without facing repercussions. I wonder if the European Union may have learned from some of its failures in recent years vis-a-vis other countries. It allowed Hungary to get away with terrible things year after year, and finally started to realize recently that that was a mistake. Hungary's leadership now, thankfully, has changed. Perhaps Albania's leadership may be brought to change as a result of these intelligent decisions being made by the EU, which I'm sure will be supported by the vast majority of EU citizens.
So thank you very much, Marsela Musabelliu, who joined from Tirana, and Rupert Reader joined from the UK. Thank you very much for your insight. I really appreciate it. And we will be covering the Flamingo Revolution in the coming days. We will keep an eye on this. And I could invite you again in the Eastern Horizon anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.